Hi everybody, we're back once again in the Vermont Center for Photography's James Dianich Library. I'm here with Chris Trebert, who has been a longtime member of VCP, and if you ever have the opportunity to come to VCP, you'll come into the main gallery and you may see some text on the wall that says the Chris Trebert Gallery. That's it. This is the Chris Trebert we're talking about, and today we're talking about one of the books from Chris's personal collection, Rocky Schenck Photographs. So Chris, tell us a little bit about how you discovered this work and how you feel about it. It is very moody, very evocative. Dreamlike is a word that gets used a lot, but also maybe a little nightmarish. Give us your take.
Nightmarish. I know. I was saying it's kind of interesting that this is the book that I chose off my shelf as one of my favorites because it is rather nightmarish, and I am a person who hates scary movies. Film noir is not my cup of tea, and yet this book really suggests that in many ways. I first came across Rocky Schenck in the early 2000s. I don't remember the very first place that I saw one of his pieces, but I was so drawn to it that I saw he was having a show at the Julie Saul Gallery, downtown New York. It was around 2000 and early 2000s. I don't remember the actual date, but I went to see the show, and many of these pieces were on exhibit, and they were just stunning. And so I bought the book, and it's been on my shelf for 20 years now, and it's one of my favorites for many reasons about this work. One of the things I really like about Rocky Schenck's point of view and his vision that you see in these pieces is what I would say is kind of his courage of conviction, that he has a very specific way that he is presenting an idea in his photographs, and he persists with it. Every single image, whether it's, they're all of a place, they're rooted in some kind of a place, but you don't really know as much about the place as you do about the psychological feeling that you have in these places.
Yeah, talk about that psychological feeling, right? You mentioned horror, you mentioned not being a horror aficionado, but this image in particular came up as we were looking through it together. Tell us the sort of, the sort of a tension here between a good time and a bad time. Talk about that.
Well, this, I would say of all the images in the book, this one is slightly different in that typically when he has a person or two people in the scene, they're sort of alienated or alone or isolated or off at the edge of the frame. You often don't see their face. It's a figure, and they kind of stand for some sense of fear or alienation, as I said, or uncertainty about what this person is doing. But this one, you see the person's face and you see her expression and you see this sense of, you can't quite tell, is it humorous, is it terrifying, is she having a good time or a really bad time?
Laughing or screaming.
Laughing or screaming, exactly. And so this one has, more than any of the others, I think, this really strong psychologically kind of disturbing quality to it.
And you also talked about an admiration for the design sense, right? The idea of composition. This one particularly stood out.
Well, I think this one is typical of any of the ones where he does where there's some kind of a structure. In this case, you've got a pier or a fence or something. In some of the others, there's a road. But he's very, very clear in the way he composes. He really takes you through the frame from one side to the other. I think there is a person on the very edge of the frame too. So his sense of composition, I think, really enhances the feeling that you get when you move into an image, you try to understand what's happening, you feel a little unsure and uncertain, but the way he brings your eye from one side to the other helps that.
Yeah, very much an unnervingness to the photos, right? These are some very placid and, seen photographically, maybe kind of a welcoming space, but the photographer really takes that away and creates this sense of
scary place.
Sense of foreboding.
Yeah, and there was one that we looked at. It was the landscape of a house on a lake. I think we marked it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, this is another interesting one to talk about because when I look at this, I think of many photographs that I might be drawn to myself, or places that have this quality. We've got a single house on a lake, you've got reflections, you've got, you know, beautiful woods behind it. You can interpret that so many different ways, and more typically would be to show those kind of romantic qualities, or
right, the sort of cozy cabin.
Yeah, or just the comforting kind of qualities. And yet,
none of that.
None of that. You know, none of that is there. But he's using those elements of a single cabin on a lake in a quiet, still place, and he's creating that sense of sort of impending doom or terror. Or, you know, if you were watching, if this were in a film, you'd be saying, "Don't go in that house. Don't go in that house."
Not a welcoming spot to be.
Right. And that's why I say it's funny, because I hate scary movies, but I love this work.
Yeah.
And interestingly, about a little bit I know about his background is that from the time he was a child, he was interested in both photography and filmmaking.
Yeah.
And he actually went out to LA and he worked on some film sets, and he did stills for movies. So these feel somewhat like that, like stills from a movie.
Yeah, very much a sort of psychological, you know, if not horror, just that sort of unease and uncertainty. I think it's a book to kind of get lost in, sort of in your own sort of imaginings, whether they be dark or light.
Right.
Well, that's Rocky Schenck Photographs. This is a book from Chris's own personal collection. But just sort of as a celebration of photo books, we're inviting members of the community, if there are books in the VCP library you'd like to come in and take a look and see highlighted, or books from your own collection, we'd be happy to have you come in. Chris, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you, Luke. It was fun.
So yeah, as a celebration of photo books, come to VCP, check out the library, see what we've got. Many, many, many selections. The library is open whenever VCP is open, so please stop by. Members can check the books out, but you're free to come in and have a look anytime. I'm Luke. This is Chris. That's our book of the week. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.